Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Donnie Epley. I'm the Director of Membership and Technology for the International Association of Approved Basketball Officials. We're pleased to welcome tonight Ed Rush and Tyler Ford and the Core Club and NBA. So we appreciate it, Ed, and you can take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Donnie. We're honored that you would think of us, and this topic is, I think, for Tyler and I, is one of our favorite topics. It's one that we think about a lot. But just very briefly, 16 years ago, there was this very a young and aggressive and thoughtful basketball referee who was in grad school at Ball State University. And while he was there, he became a mentor. And so he literally was one of the very first people that ever signed up for Core Club 16 years ago. And we were excited to have him with us. And so his journey was one that I really took personal interest in. Right away, I saw that he was extremely talented. He was coachable. And I learned a lot from Tyler. I learned an awful lot from Tyler because he expressed himself, and there was a lot of things going on that really made it helpful. So he was one of the original Core Club members, and we're extremely proud of where he is now. In my opinion, that I think he's one of the 4 or 5 best officials in all of basketball. And his strength is this topic. I mean, he's an exceptional communicator. If you watch him on the court, he's got a way of connecting with people. He's extremely believable. So there's so many things about what he does. So, I mean, one of the things I tell people sometimes, watch Tyler work and see the things that he does, because he's a model that other people can follow, right? So, Tyler, I know you just got back from training camp and you're getting ready to start that grind, which is called the NBA season. It seems like they play like about 400 games a year.
Feels that way too.
Yeah, I know it's only 82, but thank you for taking a few minutes this evening, to be with this group, and we're really honored that you would do that. So we're going to start, Tyler, we're going to show a video, and we have Austin Stokel, who was our Director of Digital Services. So he's going to run all our stuff, and we presented this topic was a couple of weeks ago, and because there's really a cry out for people to get better in the area of communication, more so than ever before. And we talked about this summer at camp. Okay, so here is a game that once you play Navy and you play against Army, automatically you're going to find yourself into a highly competitive situation. Just the fact that it's Army Navy, it is what it is. So you're going to have emotions in this game, period. So we're going to show this, and Tyler, you can kind of take over here.
Yep.
Because there are a lot of coaching points in this video and a lot of takeaway. So thanks for being with us, and let's go at it.
Let's let it play, and then we can kind of go back so everybody knows what we're talking about here.
Okay.
So we see a technical foul.
Yeah, there's a crossing play, and it's a center responsibility, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That way everybody kind of knows. But let's go back to the actual play itself.
Mm-hmm.
One thing when we were talking about right there. Okay, so one thing that when we were talking about this earlier is, when we talk about communication, and I know when I was coming up, the one thing I wanted to know is, well, what do you say? And, you're looking for phrases and different stuff. And I mean, the reality is there's just no magic word. Every situation's different. Everybody's personality is different. But the controllables of situations, sometimes it comes down to just refereeing. And so you can control being in the right spot. You can control, if you let that thing click a little bit more, you're going to see him get hit. Right there, I think he may start on the ball, but he definitely finishes in the face. That is something we can control, okay? We cannot control what this coach's reaction is going to be, all right? So I just think it is important that sometimes communication and getting yourself in these situations, sometimes it comes down to, I'm like pointing to my screen like you guys can see what I'm pointing at. Sometimes it comes down to the actual craft of calling plays, getting in position, being aware of situations. And another big part of this is being composed and controlling your own emotions. So we let the play go. Go ahead, let it roll, Austin.
And you know,
All right. Now-
Austin has Telestrator. He can
Okay.
so he can point and circle and all those things, so.
All right.
If you need that, okay.
Cool. Now we have a reaction. All right. If we take ourselves out of referee mode and we go into coach mode,
Yeah,
they're down 43-31. He just sees an obvious foul that we missed. I think everybody understands that there's going to be a reaction. What we don't know here at 13:41 of the second quarter, I asked Ed this question earlier. Contextually, we have no idea if this guy's been warned. We don't know how much he's complained. We're sort of looking at this play in a vacuum. So
yeah.
I don't know anybody on this court. I want to be fair to the situation. But if we were just evaluating this interaction, it definitely could be done better. You have a reaction from a coach. We have no words exchanged from the referee. He turns to him face to face, like he's getting ready to say something, which is fine. Like, I think we feel, again, the referee feels, whoever's in trail feels a reaction coming. We might even have called a foul. I think the center official did call a foul. All right, so we got a foul on the secondary part.
Yeah.
I think that step there, as that guy's coming, depending on what he says, is fine. What he's doing is he knows there's a reaction coming and he's going to address it, which is good. Okay. And whoever this coach is, I don't know his name. Let's say it's Mike. Mike. And your first goal is to try to get him to calm down. We're trying with our emotions, with our strength in that moment and meeting him there. What you're hoping to do is, can we now turn this into a conversation? I am willing to have a conversation about the play that just happened. I'm guessing since we didn't call it, we probably felt it because he meets him. He does a good job in that moment. Now, how can we try to diffuse the situation so we can now have a professional dialogue?
Okay.
You let that go a little bit longer. And I don't know what was said. I'm hoping it was a magic word. But the fact that we never got to say anything in there, we never got it diffused. And now we just put a whistle in the mouth and we go technical foul. Positively, we do create space, which is good. So when you do call a technical foul, try to create some more space. And then what you're also trying to avoid as a partner is none of this good cop, bad cop stuff. There's
Hey,
no
Tyler,
Yeah,
let's
go
go
ahead.
back to the proximity.
Yep.
The initial go round with the proximity, like right when we talk about, Austin's trying to use the Telestrator, Donnie, but it doesn't work at his end for some reason. I don't know, there's something, I'm not sure. Anyway, so you look at this here, right, and look at Bear there, okay? So to me, when we talk about space and time, that's too close. You know,
It gets
because
confrontational, doesn't it?
Exactly. So we want to read the body language, read the nonverbals, knowing that our ultimate goal, right, is to get the ball in play and move to the next play. But here, I mean, he's right in his kitchen, you know?
Yep.
And I think, Tyler, to me, that's a potential escalator right there.
Yep. I don't disagree with that. We do have a foul called. So you have a dead ball. I don't mind the fact that you got a guy coming and you feel him and you stop. And the goal is to try to get him to stop and you're going to address it. So there is an element. I think it's the full turn away from the floor that makes that confrontational.
Yeah.
But that if you go back just a little bit more, Austin, not quite that. That's where you got too far. But when he stops and turns, like, I hear you, I know you're coming.
Yeah.
I think that that's okay because he's addressing the fact that he's coming. He's not shying away from a conversation. Now we turn our body all the way around, and now it does get confrontational with a whistle in our mouth. that's not a good look because it doesn't, we never did anything with our words to try to get Mike to calm down and just talk about the play,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Ah.
Yeah, because really, we're trying to get him to the point where always trying, he's making this point, but when we get into that face-to-face thing, a la baseball umpire, I think, Tyler, that's a potential escalator.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But for me, I think if I feel whoever that coach is coming down, again, hypothetical Mike, and I hear, Tyler, goddamn it, da 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 da.
No.
The first thing I'm doing is Mike, and I'm just trying to get him to stop and freeze.
Mhm.
All right. I'm gonna take a deep breath. Just what do you got, Mike?
Mhm.
Yeah. Just try to get that your tone, your volume. I think initially there has to be get something where he doesn't become so animated where he's running all the way down the sideline, but
Mhm.
try to get him to address his issue at hand.
So Tyler, let's talk about something here.
Yep.
That, I don't want to pass by this, and Donnie would totally understand this. So, and we've talked about this a lot. How do we address a coach, right? Because we're addressing him by saying, calling him coach, calling him Coach Smith, or addressing him by his first name. And when people ask me about that, I say, it depends. And a lot depends on your immediate supervisor, right?
Yep.
And then the status you have in the league, where you are in your career, the number of reps you've had, with that team, etc. Because I think, to me, Tyler, the first time I have somebody, I'm probably going to address him as Coach Smith, and in a respectful way. And then after a year or two, maybe I've had him 5-6 times, and we've had conversation, and may evolve to the point where we're on first name, right? But then you also have to know what your immediate supervisor does and does not want. What are the guidelines that he puts out, right? And I think, Donnie, you could probably say that of the people on this call, close to 200 people, we could probably get a variation of the things that people can do, and what variation, what is acceptable, what is not. In other words, you have to know where you're working and who you're working for. I mean, professional basketball, where Tyler works, everybody's addressed by their first name. And that's relationship building. But that's not the case in the college and high school game. Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would definitely, whatever your supervisor decides that is the strategy, I would encourage, if there is not a set principle, to learn people's names, because they're
Mhm.
going to call you by your first name. And I think getting to that level of respect, and not only knowing that guy's name, but knowing those 3 assistants in the front row is powerful too. And
Yes.
so while we're on that particular topic, any information that you have on this squad, you're trying to develop a working relationship with this group. Okay. And you may want to know that Army is on an 8-game losing streak. You may want to know that Mike, the head coach, is really fired up because he's been calling out the effort of his squad. So you want to know that their second assistant is a candidate for a head coaching job next year. You might want to know that the third assistant's kid has cancer. All of that stuff makes you human, and it's information that makes you more aware of the situation of the team, the potential psyche of the team, and it gives you a better perspective of what kind of emotion or what kind of team you may be dealing with. Okay. And
Yep.
information is power. And we don't do this to try to suck up or create some, false sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
This is relationship building in a working environment. Okay. And we're trying to create a respectful relationship where they respect on what you do and who you are. So be yourself and how you use that. But that information is very powerful. And the other thing I will add with that is, why do you want to know assistant coaches' names? because a lot of times they're the voice of reason during timeouts or
Yep.
yeah, hey, whatever you need to communicate with them. But assistant coaches become head coaches. And
Absolutely.
when they become head coaches and you treated them really well when they were on their first time on the front row, they really respect that a lot. And those relationships down the road are really powerful. Okay. And so much of this, I would challenge you, and I'll say this again on a couple other clips. This is about a long-term relationship. So 5, 6, 7 years down the road, and especially for newer, younger referees on here, your goal is to develop respect. And that relationship building and that communication is all about how this relationship is going to develop respectfully over the long term. Sometimes that requires some short-term pain to go through to get there, and that's okay. Okay. So don't sacrifice some short-term pain for your long-term relationship of respect, which is ultimately what we're trying to get to.
Right. That's really, really important information that Tyler just gave you there. It's really important. The relationship building and the authenticity of building those relationships, really, really, really important. Because at the end of the day, that's going to carry you when you're in a conference or place 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, where people feel very comfortable when you walk out on the floor. You know, and it has to do with the history they have with you. So there's so many things that you can learn from that, but that's really, really important, what Tyler just said. Now, as far as the assistant coach thing, I'll add this. So we did an interview a few years ago. There was an audio interview with Larry Brown, was then at that time he was one of the assistant coaches at Memphis. And he said that he always looked, well, all the years he was a head coach, to see if the officials, when they came over to shake hands before the game, like the respect that they showed for his assistants, that meant a lot to him. And he felt like at the end of the day, when he saw that level of respect, then automatically he put that person in a place where they were okay, and he was going to leave them alone. That's how much that meant to him. You know, and he observed that very closely. So that's what Tyler said is really important, and for so many different reasons. So do your homework, do your research and find out, even in the high school game, learn who's the assistant coach, learn the trainer's name, have all these people and understand what their role is and what their name is.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, let's move on here. So we need to create more space, right?
Yep.
So we as we move here, Austin.
Again, putting the whistle in your mouth before you call the tech is also kind of threatening and confrontational as well. So again, that's why contextually, I don't know if this guy was warned, and if he was warned for whatever, probably that first, tirade where he ran down the sideline was, if that's where we were, it's probably just a technical foul. But if we haven't gotten to that stage, I don't like the fact that we never got anything verbal out of the trail to this coach and then got into this face-to-face with the whistle in our mouth, and that led to a technical foul.
Yeah.
Not saying he didn't deserve it, because he probably said something that did deserve it. But what we're doing is we're trying to use this clip to try to help you guys be better in these situations. And I think there's a lot to be learned from this. And then watch how close that point gets. He doesn't overtly show him up with the T signal, which is fine. It's vanilla, which is okay. I mean, you don't have to be over the top. The angle of the camera looks like it almost points him right in the throat, which is obviously not good. So be cognizant of where you are in terms of space there too. I think that a point, we learned this in the NBA finals in probably 2016, that not pointing can get yourself in trouble because it can be confusing. So as you turn and you want to point in the direction, personally, I'm okay with that. Again, if your supervisor has something against that, you adjust. That point is extremely close to that individual, which then can create more problems. So be aware of that. I do like that we walk away and create space, because there's nothing there's no good that can be done sitting in there after you give a technical foul. I don't care how good of a communicator you are. It's not going to be, it's a rule of thumb for us. It's gotten people in trouble. Just get out of there. Get out. And nobody else is coming to save the day. It is now Mike's job and his assistants to get himself under control. He is a head coach at a Division I program. That is his job. He is a professional now, and he needs to get himself under control. And if he decides to continue to go, we've created space and he gets ejected, that's on him. No heroes. No Cowboys rolling in to save the day. No good cop. I'm going to say this because what happens is we want to get through this without further confrontation. I understand why people think that I have a really good rapport with him. I could just go, I can get him to calm down. Look, I want to get through this game. You know, I don't want to sacrifice my coach's ratings. If anybody works high school, I know how important that is. It's his job. Okay. And if you really want to be respected in this, there's another guy from Navy on the other end that's watching how this is going down. Okay. And how you behave and how you handle this situation, he's taking notes. And again, like I said, the goal is, how do you want to be respected down the road? And you're building that. This is just as much of this guy learning where the line is and how he's going to be treated when he crosses the line. And guess what? He's probably going to respect it, even though in this moment he's trying to get as much from you as he can. But there's another guy down there that's watching too. And there's people who are going to watch film. There's a lot of eyes on these things, and we don't necessarily think about that when we're in their moment and we're trying to just get through it. So keep that
Really
in
good. This might be a good time, Tyler, to interject the 3-part test. 'Cause
Yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of people will say, well, gee, I don't know, did I do the right thing there? And I'm not sure. Da, da, da. And years ago, and I know you were in Court Club when we started to put this together, we created this, okay, what does it really mean, right? So we gave it the 3-part test. I don't know, do you remember that when we put that in?
Absolutely. Did it fit? Was it effective?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And
Immediate supervisor.
does your immediate supervisor defend it? Yep.
Yep. That's, you think about those 3 things. Very good, Tyler. Good recall. That was a while ago. Yeah, so it's really important if you think about it, because everything you do as far as discipline and managing emotions, you need to ask the question, did my reaction, my response fit? Did my reaction, was it effective? Were we better off because of what I did? And then lastly, what happened here as far as, can my supervisor, and when he has this in front of him, can he defend it? And that's really important. You want to, as much as possible, you want to be 3 for 3. Right?
Yeah.
And
And I would add, in terms of reporting, if there was a warning, if there was dialogue with him earlier, you put all of that in your reporting. You dot all your I's and you cross all your T's, right? You have to control yourself and be composed. So then you can, when you do your report, you know exactly what he said. You don't want to be so frazzled, then you don't have any recall of what happened or anything you said, but you would aspire to be in such control of your own emotions that you recall everything that he said, everything that you said. You have documented of what was said earlier, and all of that can be very cleanly reported. And in terms of did it fit, it sure looks like it. Could we have been a little better? Absolutely. Was it effective? We don't know how this game went, but once you meet the standard of what a technical foul is, it's his choice to figure that part out. And then can your supervisor defend it? As long as you report this accurately, I would say absolutely here.
Yeah, so that, to that point, Tyler, like, what's not defendable? Well, if I call a technical foul and I just kind of stay there.
Yeah.
And I get into a back and forth, then the coach is going to say, or the player, or whoever, hey, I was taunted. I mean, could he get away? I mean, so that's where you gotta, like, you create as much space as possible. And there's certainly a rule of thumb that you call technical foul, you want to do everything you can to avoid 2 technical fouls, the same dead ball.
Yep.
Right? And that, because that's like that kind of becomes a situation where you're piling on. And so you want to find ways in space. and then getting the ball and getting in play, for sure.
But what it doesn't mean is he can't now, you get a technical foul and you're walking away and he calls you a no good MFer. That no good, that he does not get another shot like that.
Right.
Okay. So there are certain things that reach the standard of which that is completely unsporting and he deserves to be ejected. He did that to himself. Okay.
Right.
But continually you hit him with a technical foul. There's potentially going to be a little something else that follows that. Create space and make that second one call itself, or it's something so foul that you had no choice.
No. So Tyler has said at least 3 times, maybe 4 times so far, meeting the standard. Very important. So everybody who works for Donnie Epley, whether it's in the high school game or the college game, should know what the standard is when you work for him. That's basically, what are the expectations? You should know that. And that's important because that debate ultimately, that you want him to be able to support you. And obviously that's in your, that situation's in your court. Okay.
We have a
Right.
question in the chat.
Okay, yeah,
Can you qualify what effective is?
okay. You wanna take that, Tyler?
I think effective, you hope that when somebody's behavior again meets the standard of what's deemed to be unsporting, that a technical foul changes their behavior. They now understand the parameters of what is allowed, permitted. The great Danny Crawford always said, if you permit, you promote. Okay. But effective is you are going too far. You are now either becoming a distraction. You are being disrespectful. You are being unprofessional. And there is a penalty for that. Okay. And effective now redirects them to go back to doing their job. And that is not refereeing or being unsporting or being disrespectful. Okay.
Mhm.
And if they don't, and a second technical foul is called, then that would also be effective because that individual has now been removed from this contest. Okay.
Mhm.
So I think that's partially effective. I think effective too is, again, when they don't hit the standard, the other coach on the other end understands that you are going to discipline the game. And at the end of the day, guys and girls, these coaches, one of the only, they respect strength, even though they're going to battle with you in that moment and they're going to make it hard and they're going to make it difficult. One of the things they're really going to respect over time is that the fact that you are willing to be strong and discipline the game and maintain this sense of fairness, which is really what our jobs are.
That's a really good question about defining effectiveness. You look at the clock and there's 13:41 remaining. And so a lot of this effectiveness is that you have set the table, you set the tone for what's going to happen in those next 13:41. And so you send a message. This is the way things are going to be. That's the effectiveness. And
Yep.
you move on. So you would hope that decision you made, that you were, fit the 3-part test, was something that helped the game.
Let me add one more thing to the effectiveness too. And I know we're getting kind of held up on this clip. This
Yeah.
happens a lot on our staff. Okay. And it's relevant to any group of people or any staffs because everybody, and you guys all, I don't know that many people on this call, but all of you sort of know who gives more text than other people or who allows a little bit more. If this behavior is unsporting and it meets the standard of what a technical foul is, and this crew doesn't give a technical foul. Now, when Jimmy and Terrell and Jeff come in 2 nights later and they give a technical foul, guess who the asshole is? The other crew, right? And so I think a lot like our crews, and I think you guys can relate this. We talk a lot during playoff series about how game 1 crew is setting up this series for the next crew, right? Regardless if the game gets to be a blowout, you don't want to leave anything in that game that now game 2 crew has to clean up. You should have a similar mindset from game to game in conference or with your staffs what you don't allow or what you do allow or you don't allow, you're setting up the next group of referees, the next crew that comes in there, the next time they have them on what's allowed and what isn't, what's permitted and what's not, what's the standard. And this is where coaches can get really frustrated and they're calling down and like, one night this is a tech and one night it's not, and I just don't get it. And then that's where we get blamed for inconsistency. And it's because sometimes we just don't want to deal with it, or we're worried about our coaches' ratings. We have to collectively as a group hit that standard every night. And that makes it easier for the crews to follow.
Well said. Yeah, so obviously, there's got to be a level of consistency that really, as a staff, that you go from one game to the other. It's extremely important because it makes it better. I mean, that's easier for a coach to coach when he knows what the rules are. But you're human beings and you have emotions, and we know that some people react differently than others. It's just part of life, and so as much as you try, we're not going to all be the same. Like even in professional basketball, where you have 60-some people and they try to be as like-minded as possible, there are still situations where they're not. And they're working hard at trying to get everybody to be like-minded. So I can imagine that the hundreds of people that work for Donnie and all the games that are being taken care of there, it's really difficult to get everybody to be like-minded and be on the same page, but do the best you can.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Now you're right, we stayed on this clip, so let's move on.
Deke, I'll answer that question as we get going. So there's a couple other questions. We'll get to them.
Okay.
So we're going to get to the next clip, and then we can continue to kind of answer some of these questions as
Okay.
they roll in.
So we did talk about proximity. Why don't we go to the Austin? Let's go to the Amy Bonner. Amy's a Division I referee on the men's side. She works a lot of international basketball, and she's one of the best in basketball, period. In the areas of managing emotions, she's exceptional. Very well respected, and we've used her many times to teach this topic. So we're going to show you a clip here early in the game, right? And so Amy here is initiating conversation to get to the point where this group, this is an NIT game, very competitive. Neither team is happy with the fact that they're playing the NIT, so they got a little edge to them, right? But you can see here that we're early in the game, and Amy initiates conversation. We had her on and she talked about this. So they hear her voice and she's basically say, hey, that was a good play down there, etc. There's a relationship building with players. I know it's really important in high school, but you can see her here where she initiates conversation. And frankly, this is one of Tyler's strengths many times. And so probably 20 years ago, we would never teach this, but we do now. And it's really important because it helps build trust. So I don't know, you want to address that, because I guess the next time we do this, Donnie, we'll have some of Tyler's clips, and because I know he does this a lot.
I learned this from Monty McCutcheon. I remember the first game I worked with him, and he talked to everybody. And I think the thing that I notice in this clip and the other clip with Amy is just how real it looks. It's a genuine look. It's not over the top. This is just I'm building rapport with people. I maybe know who he is. I've had this team before. Conference player of the year. It could be whatever it is. But like for me, pregame, if I know somebody just, like going into the season, somebody signed a huge contract. Congratulations on your deal. Rookies, first time I see them. Hey, welcome to the NBA. Congratulations. That's really cool. Looking forward to work, whatever it may be. It's nothing. It's just a baseline. I remember players who did it to me, who walked up and welcomed me. And so any nugget that you have on these guys, It could just be, hey,
Yeah.
great hustle, whatever.
Right.
Using your voice is a really powerful tool so they know you're there.
Well, let's say you have a high school player, who had, he had a couple of great games and, points or rebounds, and you just come by and say, hey, you're doing great things. I just noticed the box score. I looked at, what you're doing with rebounds or what you're doing with points, and that means like kids will go, wow. Like, so that automatically, there's a level of credibility that puts you in a place where now, if you have to communicate later in a little different tone, it's not the first time that they hear your voice. It's really important that now, but you've already built a baseline of respect. And that, you think about that. So we can do a lot of things because when we know, we do the research, high school game, right? So you do the research and you know what so-and-so accomplished over the last couple of weeks, or, they were in a Christmas tournament and, that their team did really well and, hey, congratulations. You guys are doing great stuff. Really great to see. It's being real.
Look, it's the whole reason that you're trying to build relationships is because there's going to be a adversarial moment at some point. There's going to be disagreement. It's just part of the player referee, coach referee interaction. And it's a little bit it's a little bit more difficult for a player or coach to get extremely upset when they have a rapport with you. This is just humans being humans, and having a baseline of rapport or relationship. You're still going to argue. It's going to be part of it. That's okay. There's going to be conflict. They're going to be upset. But the fact that they know Ed, they know Andrew, because you've created a relationship, it normally goes over a little bit better versus somebody they don't know. So,
Yeah. So I think what we're really saying here, Tyler, is that when you talk to Amy, she'll tell you that she goes into the game with a plan, because she's done her research. So she has a plan and she executes the plan. And what it comes down to is that because she executes that plan, then right away, this is early in the game. Her rapport is exceptional, right? And something where it's not spur of the moment, it's something that you do with intention.
for sure. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. All right, let's, I guess, Austin, let's show that other clip with Amy.
Again,
No.
be yourself. I think too often people try to be other people, right? Whatever your strength. Look, I'm not this like quick, witty, funny kind of person. It's just not my style. What I have become is extremely composed, and I'm not afraid, and I have information, and I know their name, and I'm willing to communicate with them. But if you are a quick and witty person and humor is part of your thing, by all means, use that to your strength. If you're a basketball person and you can talk about horns and flex and all these different stuff, and that you can relate that into your dialogue, by all means, use that. But don't try to be something that you're not. All right. So you got to try to figure out, this is why there's no perfect answer about what to say. It's very dependent on who you are, what your personality is, and then how does that mesh with that particular individual. We all have different coaches we mix with, or that we don't have as good relationships with. And then you think about it 3 or 4 years down the road, like the coaches that were the most difficult in my first or second year are no longer the same individuals that I would say now. It changes. And so just keep that into account too. Like, use your personality to your strength and you want to try to be as genuine as you possibly can. Be yourself.
So important. That's really well said. Very much so. And just understand that, believe me, I want to make sure you understand that this can be very effective at the high school level. I've seen it, where you do that, but it takes work and preparing, and you want to know the personalities. You want to know some things, the key points about those personalities. And so it ends up that I have a plan and you know what you're saying, right? But things, our whole way of being, because look, this is really important. I'll tell you how important it is. Spending the summer going to camps and talking to coordinators. This becomes the deal maker as to whether somebody gets hired or not. At the end of the day, they want folks that are effective, they can do this, okay? There's also, when you talk to coaches and you ask them, well, what do you think here? What is it about that official? Why do you like him? And almost always you hear, well, you know, he or she is a really good communicator. I mean, I have yet to hear somebody say, hey, you know, that person really does a great job as secondary defender. Boy, are they good with secondary defender, right? No, this is like front of the class, top of the list event. How good are you at communicating? And that goes all the way through administratively as well as at the franchise or the team level. Right. So make this part of what you're doing, you know, keep improving.
And again, it may not just be how well verbally you are. I think a lot of it, somebody said demeanor. So it really is how composed you are, what's your body language look like, how calm you are, your tone, your level of awareness and just ability to recall what happened can be a very powerful tool. So maybe you're not quick with your words in the moment. And I still think you can be very effective at this because you listen, you make eye contact, you have good body language, you're a calming influence. And when they have a question, you provide an answer. And then when they again, I'll go back to this, when they exceed what the standard is of unacceptable behavior and you penalize that, over time, they will respect that. So somebody said in here, well, this doesn't really bother me. Should there be a baseline for acceptable behavior? Yes, there should be. Because just because if he calls you a no good bitch and you go like, it doesn't really bother me, that's not acceptable. That's not what sporting behavior is. It's just like there's a standard for traveling. There's a standard for block charge. There's a standard for what is deemed to be unacceptable behavior. And you should have that standard across the board. And if you don't and you're unsure, like that's something you guys should talk about. Like, is this a technical foul? Is this not a technical foul?
Right.
That's good. That's good stuff to prepare for. That's part of having a plan and understanding what is and what isn't.
Yeah. Let's roll this thing and see what we got here. Okay. So you'll notice that
Purposeful.
So the calling official here, stays in the area, blows the whistle, and does never leave a player on the floor. Never ever walk away from a player on the floor. This is Nate Harris, really high level official. He was also one of the original court club guys. Yep. But here's a player on the floor, and he stays there until he can read the emotion. And then Amy comes in. She's basically surveying the situation, and she's going to make sure that they hear her voice, right? Because that's an awkward foul, right?
Not running in. She's completely under control. You can do the same thing, like read it. Now, if a brawl's getting ready to start it probably changes. That'd be a situation you'd run in. But let's not come in and sort of escalate this and make it look worse because we want to show we're like she's in command here. Look how purposeful this walk is. It's very strong. Heads up. And what I really like, my favorite part of the clip is keep going, right there. Like just direct. She's in total command. Eye contact is exceptional. She is not scared. And she's just very clearly communicating whatever it may be. We don't even know what she's saying, but it looks really good.
Yeah, it does. I think it was, the foul, the play looked awkward, but it wasn't illegal and it wasn't flagrant. It just, the offensive player got in an awkward position and the defender was actually trying to avoid. And while the guy was in the air, he got basically clipped and he ended up on the floor. So she wanted to make sure there was no escalation of emotions. Same thing with Nate, what he did there. but that was a tremendous job of managing that. You know, and all, they didn't have to do anything, didn't go anyplace, but they knew she was there.
And this is where familiarity and relationships, they want to sit there and talk. Joey, we got to get going. Let's go. 2 shots. And we keep this moving. And that's part of the process. And we're not having some extended, long, drawn out conversation. A lot of the communication we do is kind of on the move. It's on the fly. And it's quick. Get in, get out, keep it moving. Game flow is important to everybody at every level. And this is, I think what she does here is really effective.
Yeah, really good. All right, I know Donnie doesn't want us to be on here for 3 hours, so let's how about we go, Austin, we put up the roadmap for success?